All right, so in SketchUp today, we are going to create a plan for our tray. We're going to start with the base of our tray being 10 inches by 14 inches. So I'm going to click once and I'm going to pull out the rectangle and I'm going to make that 10 inches by 14 inches and I'm putting the dimensions in and I'm just going to zoom in now to my rectangle. Okay, so there's the base. It's 10 inches by 14 inches. We are going to raise that up by 3/4 of an inch. And so there's our base. Now I'm going to take my offset tool, okay, which is the letter F, keyboard shortcut. Click once on edge and I'm going to offset that by 3/4 of an inch. This I'm going to break up and that's going to represent the sides of my tray. Now I want the shorter end, the width that's 10 inches, I want that to be a full piece. So I'm going to go from the end here and I'm going to drag it over. I'm going to go from the end here and I'm going to drag it over. Zoom in a little bit. So I'm just clicking on the end with my line and I'm dragging over. And I'm following the, I'm following the red axis. So again, I'm going to go from the edge here, click once, drag it over, and make sure it is red. So it's square parallel to that the red axis there. And I'm going to click both. So now if I just orbit around so you can see what I've done here. There's our base, and I've now created 4 separate sides that we're going to bring up. So I'm going to take a look at the first one here. It's going to go up 3 inches. So now that I've grabbed my push-pull tool and I go over, you can see there's different faces now because it's broken up. I want to highlight the side that I'm pulling up. I'm going to click once and start to drag, and I want that to go up 3 inches. Okay, and do the same thing on the other side. I'm going to click once when that side that I want to push up is highlighted. Start to drag it up, but I only want it to go up 3 inches. So I'm going to put the dimensions in and press enter. Okay. Now, I want the side of my tray, this is where my handle is going to be. I want it to be separate from my base because it is a separate piece. So I'm going to just click from the end point here and I'm going to drag across. You want to make sure that you keep it with on the green axes there. Well, here it's red. Then as I go this way, it should be green. All right. So we'll do all of them. So starting from the end point. Okay, square with that green axis, parallel with it, parallel with the red. And we'll finish that off there. So what you can see here, if I zoom around, is I've created a separate piece of material that's going to be my handle side, separate from my base. Now, on the inside, they've got these black lines that pulled up. We don't want this to be, we want this to be one piece. So I'm just going to take my eraser button and I'm going to erase those lines. And I'm going to rotate around and erase them on both sides. So now I've got 2 handles that are separate. Okay, now we're going to pull up our 2 shorter sides. We want those to go up 1.5 inches. So I'm going to take my push-pull tool. I'm going to highlight this top here, and I'm going to pull it up just slightly, and it's going to be 1.5 inches, 1.5 inches. I'm going to turn it around and do the same on this side. 1.5 inches. All right. Looks a little funny here, so we're going to take our line tool, which is that pencil looking tool, or L on the keyboard, and we are going to connect here. So now we have our base and we have our handle and then our side. I'll do the same on the other side here. Okay, so what you can see here, it's looking more like a tray. and we've pulled those up. Okay, now we're going to split up our base because our base is not going to be one solid piece of wood. It's going to be 5, and each strip is going to be 2 inches. So I'm going to use my line tool, this pencil here, just to help me measure out 2 inches. So as you can see, I go along my base here, or my edge, it's red. But if I click here once and I start to draw, so I'm drawing a line, we're not going to see it because it's on that edge, but I'm going to draw a 2-inch line and press enter. Now that I've drawn the 2-inch line, I can see there's my midpoint of that 2-inch line, and there's the end point. So that is 2 inches. So I'm just going to click that once, and following the green axes, I'm going to click. So I've done a 2-inch length strip there, and I can even bring that up, making sure that I'm going to go here. It's going to be on blue. Okay, I'm going to do the exact same thing. So I'm going to go from this end point. I'm going to click once, and I'm going to draw along the edge, and I'm going to go 2 inches. And here that should, there's the end point there. So I can draw that line and draw this line. Do the same thing, 2 inches. There's the end point. So following my green axes and then my blue axes, oops, from the end point up. Okay. 2 inches here. Click. Click once, bring it up, click twice. So I've split it. Here you can see it's now 5 separate pieces, but we need to go all the way around and move that this way. Oops, sorry, we'd already done that one. So let's go this way. Oh, this one I went too far with, so I'm actually going to delete this line. All right, so if you go a little bit too far, you can just erase. I'm going to click my line tool again and go from the edge, and I'm going to go up. Edge, end point there, and on the blue axis it goes up, end point, end point. So if I zoom out, I've now visibly split that. It gets a little bit trickier on the inside because we have these sides already created. So I'm actually just going to take this and I'm going to push it directly down. I know it goes down 1.5 inches. So I've just placed it down so I can measure from here. So I'm going to go from here and I'm going to go along the line and I'm going to go across 2 inches and I'm going to press enter. So now if I find my end point here, I can drag that along here. Oops. Find my end point with my line and I'm going to connect it there. Now that I've got one to work off of, I'm going to bring back up the side by 1.5 of an inch. And I am going to just have to redraw in this line here. Now everyone else I can work off of this line. So I'm going to go from that end point and I'm going to draw it over 2 inches, enter, and I'm going to drag my mouse until I find the end point. So there's 2 inches there. So I'm just going to orbit around so I can see both edges there. There we go. Oops. So again, from the end point on the green. Okay. And it does look a bit off because this is 2 inches, but this is covering part of it. So I'm just going to set myself up a little bit better so I can see both sides here. Go from the end point. I'm going to go 2 inches, enter, find my end point because that's 2 inches, and I'm going to drag it across and click. Go across 2 inches, enter, find that end point, and then I'm going to drag it across and click. So now if I orbit around, I can see that my base is now split into 5 different pieces of wood. Okay. The next thing we're going to work on is curving our handles. So I'm going to curve my handles from 1 inch to 1 inch. So I want that curve to go in an inch and to go down an inch. And I'm going to use that line tool again to measure. So I'm going to start at my end point, the corner. I'm going to click once and I'm going to travel down, and that's going to be 1 inch, enter. So now when I go down, I can see there's the end point of my line. So that's exactly 1 inch from the corner. So I'm going to click here. I'm going to do the same thing going this way, 1 inch, enter, and I can find it here. So now I'm going to take my 2-point arc. I'm going to find those 2 endpoints. So there's one. I'm going to go up to the other one. There's another. And then I click again, and I'm going to move my mouse until I see it turn purple. That means it's tangent at the vertex. So the curve will hit that at the endpoints. Double click. Okay, now we're going to take the push-pull tool and we're going to get rid of that corner. All right, we're going to curve off the edge. We're going to do the same on this side. So again, I'm going to take my line tool, which is that pencil. I'm going to start from the corner, and I'm just going to use it to help me measure. So as I travel along the edge, I'm going to type in 1 inch, enter. I'm going to go same down, so 1 inch, enter. So now I should have a midpoint and an endpoint. So that's 1 inch from the corner, and that's 1 inch from the corner. So let's take our 2-point arc, start at that endpoint, 1, find it, 2, double click. Take your push-pull tool, and we will take off that corner. All right, so do it on the same side here. So I'm going to go from the corner, 1 inch, corner, and down now, 1 inch. I'm going to do all of my measurements at one time. 1 inch and 1 inch. So if I take my 2-point arc, I can travel along the edge here until I see the blue is the midpoint and the green is the endpoint. I'm going to click once. I'm going to go across until I find that other green endpoint. And if it's pink, I just double click. So I'm going to find the endpoint, which is here. 1 click, go along until I find, so there's the midpoint. So be careful not to click the midpoint. You're going to keep traveling until you get to the other green dot, which is the endpoint. Double click. Now using that push-pull tool, we will get rid of those corners. Okay, next step is our handles. We want our handles to be 5 inches in length, and we want them to be centered. So I'm going to create some lines here. So I'm going to go along my edge until I find that blue circle, which is the midpoint. So that's the midpoint. And I'm just going to draw straight down on that blue axis. So this has cut this handle side in half, okay? And then from here, I can also find a midpoint. So I know I'm directly in the middle. And I'm going to draw a line this way, 2 inches. Now, I've picked 2 inches because I want my handle to be 5 inches. But this is going to be the center of my circle. Okay, my circle, I'm going to go down here. I'm going to grab my circle tool. I'm going to place it right on the edge or the end point of that line. I'm going to click once, and I'm going to draw a circle that has a radius of a 1/2 inch. Okay, so there's that circle. Now, from this point here, that's 2 inches, but then the radius out here is another 1/2 inch. So I've got 2.5 inches to the outer edge of what will be my handle. I'm going to do the same thing on the right side, which will then give me 5 inches across. So I'm going to start from my end point. I'm going to go across here 2 inches. I'm going to take my circle tool again, and I'm going to place the center of my circle right on that end point. I'm going to draw out, and I want that again to be 1/2 inch. So now from the edge here to the edge here, that's 5 inches because this is 4 inches plus half an inch and half an inch. I'm then going to take my pencil tool, my line tool. I'm going to start at the top here and I'm going to draw directly across. And these would be the cut lines. Okay, we would cut with the jigsaw. I'm going to go endpoint to endpoint. And then I'm going to do some erasing. Now, this line here is just to help us for measurement to make sure we were center. So I'm just going to erase this line. I don't need it anymore. And I don't need this as well. That line there was, again, just to tell me where to put the circles. Now, I'm going to drill using the drill press with a 1/2 inch bit into my material, which is going to create 2 circles. And then I'm going to use a jigsaw and cut along this line. And that would remove this piece here. Okay, and then what else I'm going to do is I'm just going to now use my push-pull until it's on. You can see it looks like glass or a window almost on face. Click, and that's going to create a handle. I'm going to go across and do the same thing on the other side. Okay, so again, I'm using my line tool to help measure and find the center. So find that midpoint. I'm going to draw down on the blue axis. I'm going to find the midpoint of this line, which is right here. Click once, and I'm going to go up 2 inches. I'm going to do the same thing on this, going to the right, 2 inches. Oops. Sorry. So clicking here, 2 inches. I'm going to then take my circle tool. I'm going to use those marks to be the center of my circle, and I want a radius of 1/2 inch and 1/2 inch. I'm going to take my line tool again, and I'm going to make, this would be the cut lines from here going across that I would use with my jigsaw. And then I'm going to erase all of the lines that I do not need. Okay. Take my push-pull tool. And there is our completed tray.